Okay, good, good. So I want to first introduce Alicia Lucasi and Ruben Alari. And now that I've screen shared, I can't see hardly anybody. Those of you who joined us earlier saw Ruben before he had to turn his video off for connectivity issues. And Alicia, can you wave your hand and say hello so folks know who you are? Okay, and I'm going to turn it over to each of them to talk in a few minutes about their work in Bolivia and the exciting things that they've done. But I want to start out with telling you a little bit about Bolivian Quaker Education Fund and how it came to be. We're going to start with a quiz. We're going to start with an easy true-false quiz. True or false, there have been AVP, that is Alternatives to Violence Project workshops in Bolivian prisons. And I expect that some in this group will be familiar with AVP since it had its roots in New York State. Can you give me an AVP twinkle hands or something if you are familiar with AVP? Okay, so so true or false? True or false, there have been AVP workshops in Bolivian prisons. And since you're muted, maybe a T for true or a, I don't know, sign language. I didn't think this through. Okay, we have lots of trues and I don't know, a head shake if it's a no. I hadn't thought that through. Okay, true or false? Bolivia's first indigenous president, Evo Morales, a name most of you probably recognize, served longer than any elected leader in Bolivia's 195-year history, where terms in office have averaged less than 2.5 years. True or false? True. There is, and I see several trues. Yeah, yep, smart, informed crowd here. True or false? Bolivian Quaker teachers have been on the faculty of North American Friends or Quaker schools. True. Yeah, yep, sounds like it's some of you are in the know. True or false? El Alto, the city where most BQEF scholarship students live, is located at more than 13,000 feet above sea level. Yeah, and true or false? If you wanted to volunteer with BQEF, your talents could be put to use, even now during COVID. I bet there are some bilingual folks on this call who could translate letters from students, for example. Okay, I want to go back just for a sec to this 13,000. The thing that a lot of people maybe don't realize is that at those altitudes, most homes and buildings in Bolivia are also unheated. They're also unheated. So yeah, imagine the piano student practicing her piano with no heat. Yeah, the students who are writing with no heat. I have tremendous respect for how much people persevere. Oh, and by the way, in case you hadn't guessed, all of the answers are true to all of the questions. So, so it was during a visit in 2002 that Newton Garver, shown here on my left, the silver-haired gentleman, was approached by Bernabe Yura about young friends in Bolivia who dreamt of higher education. Public university in Bolivia is free, but food and housing and textbooks and transit and dental care and whatever else you may need are not. So they still had a need for support. Our mission, which we are working on making more succinct, but I don't have that for you this evening, is to strengthen ties between Andean Quakers and those of North America and Europe through programs that enhance the educational opportunities of Andean friends, nurture their service work, including, for example, AVP, strengthen their schools, and bring this work to the attention of friends in North America and Europe. Our 4 primary programs at this point are higher education scholarships, education interns in the US, visits and volunteering, and outreach among friends. We began with 15 students in 2003. Before the crash of 2008, we had 55 students, and currently we support 35 students a year. This is the 2019 second semester crop of incoming students. I don't have a group shot for 2020 because COVID. More than 220 Bolivian young adult friends have their degrees now. In the upper left corner, you'll see Alicia Lucasi on the shared screen here, and in the lower left, Ruben Alari, and we'll get to talk with them and hear more from and about them in a bit. Also in the upper right corner, Emma Condori, and the lower right, Magali Quispe, and you'll hear more about those two as we go on as well. In the center here is Alicia, shown in the office in La Paz between Juan Yura, who is our accountant on our left, and Bernabe Yura, Juan's father, who is the coordinator and co-founder of BQE Bolivia, as our sister organization is known. And Alicia is going to tell us her story and talk to us a bit. And we have some slides for her to share. Alicia, can you unmute? And did you want to share your screen, or do you want me to continue advancing the slides here? What do you prefer?
Thank you so much, Vicky. Good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to stay with you from La Paz, Bolivia. I would like to share my slides, please. I will try to do this.
So
yeah.
So give us a second while while I figure out how to not share. And Tom, if you can enable Elise sharing her screen.
Right.
Here we go. If I say exit, that will just take me out of presenting.
Can
at the top, Vicky, at the top, there may be a end share screen.
I'm not up. Why would I want to mute it?
Because they can hear you otherwise.
I'm not seeing it, but what I might do is drop off the call for a second and come back in so that I can get out of the, yeah, I don't, last time there was a red button. This time there isn't. So I'm going to drop off if I have to, so that Alicia can share and you can see her.
Is that Alicia's screen that we're seeing now that's got Bolivia on it?
Okay.
Can you see my slides? So
Yes.
Yeah? Yes, it is Bolivia. Okay. Yeah. Can you see?
Yes, we can see.
Yes,
Thank you very much. Okay. My name is Alicia Lucasi Callisaya. I'm sorry if I made mistake with my English, so I'm trying to practice my English. Okay. This is my third language. My first is Aymara, and then I learned Spanish, and after that I learned at university English too. So I would like to share with you my history and how my life changed having the support BQEF. You know where is Bolivia, but well, around the population is around 11 million, and we have 9 departments, like 9 states, and we have 36 indigenous languages. And you know, it's South America, Bolivia. Here is Bolivia, and you can see this map. We have the Amazon, it's in green here, whereas Beni, Santa Cruz, and Pando. And here in the middle is a valley, like a valley. It's not Amazon, it's not Altiplano, and the Altiplano is in La Paz and Oruro. You know, here we are really close to Lake Titicaca. And also, if you come to La Paz, you will see the Amazon in the north, and in the middle will be valley, and El Altiplano, maybe it's going to be in the south of La Paz state. Here you can see my neighborhood where I lived until when I finished my high school. Here is my house. You can see here really close, and you can see the mountains up and down. No, it's Altiplano. So I lived, I said, when I was 18 years old. And after that I had to, I studied in my school. I had to walk around 45 minutes from my house to the school, public school in my town. And about 66 years ago, the Aymara, or the indigenous people in Bolivia, and were not allowed to go to public school. So the Quakers helped a lot with school. And we had many missionaries from US and other countries who were working with education. And in that way, we can be free and we can learn in Spanish. So I said my first language is Aymara, and I had to learn at school, and like a second language, that's Spanish for me. And so now we are working hard to be sure that our children are educated and can become professional. So after my high school, I had to move to La Paz City. So you can see a huge difference from my town and to move to a city, a big city. So it was really a challenge for me with my language, because I had to speak in Spanish, with my culture, with my food. So it was a challenge, but I did. This is La Paz City, where it's downtown, but I live in El Alto City, next to the downtown, and you can see this real beautiful snow, and sometimes we have in winter. And it's El Alto where I live. So this is a public university where I studied 5 years. And now I am a professor in this public university since 2013. I studied science education, so I work with related to education subjects. And in 2008 and 9, I was at Carolina Friends School, like apprentice teacher. This experience, or to be in US, in your country, was like from moving from my town to the city, and it was a huge challenge for me, but it was wonderful, and I learned a lot. I got experience there because I really wanted to see how is the education in US, and with that experience, I came back in 2009, and I worked with in Sorata with this program from BQEF, and since 2010 I have been working for BQEF. So I started working in Sorata Valley, and for this program, students residents for high school students from different towns. They had to work around 3, 4, 5 hours, in cases 7 hours and walk, because no car, no minibuses. So they came from really far towns, and I worked for many years there until 2018. So it was really, I am so happy to have that experience in Carolina Friends School, and coming with that experience and sharing and helping them to these students, that they can come professional and they can go to the university and get being a professional there. And then that way, when they finish, they can come and help to their community. So like I was like a mom for them, because they stayed in this residence for Monday to or Sunday afternoon to Friday, and then on the weekends they go home and stay with their family and help them in different activities. So also I have been working with this scholarship students in higher education from university, and Vicky said that we have 35 scholarship students now. So I am working with them, and it's giving them advices and sending, getting reports and sending to those sponsors. And we have once a month a meeting, and we share activities, experience, and what they are doing. So I am really, really close and behind them. So those scholarship students are studying different subjects like topography, geography. They're teachers. We had many teachers, so we have around 220 professionals since this program started for scholarship program started in BQEF. So I really want to say that how this scholarship program changed our lives, like me. So I am one of them, and thanks to this program, I am working with. I am trying to help them. I am professional, so I work at the university, this one public university, and sharing with them my experience. When I say I can't do this or I can't do that, I say you can do this because I did. You know, just say that you can do. So it's hard. Imagine coming from their villages or town to move and stay far from their family, and that's the way that we can improve in our knowledge and being a professional. So we have doctors, you know, with this COVID, we need their experience and their knowledge and their help, because we don't know, we didn't know. And also we are trying to understand how we can help to the people, and they can understand and they can stay safe with this COVID here in Bolivia. I know it's around the world. And they, this is one of the scholarship students. She studied social work, and she participated, organized, and workshop with vice president from Bolivia, ex-vice president now. So they're studying linguistic and tourism, and textile, gastronomy, so different subjects. That's I want to share with you and say thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Alicia. I wonder if there are any questions for Alicia before we hear from Ruben, and we'll have questions again at the end. I can't see if anybody has their hands raised, so I don't know how you manage that as a group, Tom. I can only see a few people.
Well, I guess I can't see them all either. So if you have a question, just unmute yourself and ask the question.
I don't have a question, but I want to say what a beautiful presentation, such excellent English, beautiful pictures, very informative. Thank you so much for what you have gone through and what you're doing to help other folks now.
Thank you so much.
Was that Grania who said that?
No, that was someone else.
That's
Oh.
my.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to also say I think I'm most impressed by your life journey. I can't imagine making such huge changes in your life in one. You don't look very old, so in a short time. But I also want to ask you, does Bolivia support education for women as well as men?
Yeah, we are trying to work in that. You know, like years ago, we didn't have an opportunity, especially women. You know that in a family, women have to take care of their children, or their cook food and wash clothes and all those things. But now we are coming all together, like saying we can study and we can work and we can support the family in many ways. And but we are still working in that. And I had that experience. Sometimes they say, oh, you are women and you can do this, but yeah, it's changing a lot. But it's hard for a woman, because women has to take care also in the house, their responsibilities with children and all those things. But we are trying now to work together, like man and woman.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
We had a-
BQEF since its, I'm sorry, BQEF since its inception has actually had made it a point to have an equal number of scholarship, or have gender balance to the best that we can, both in the student residence and in the scholarship program. And there have been some years when we had more more females than males, depending just on similar in some ways to what we've seen with university enrollment here, with women enrolling at greater rates than men. I'm sorry, Tom, do you, shall we go on to hearing from Rubain?
We had one question from somebody that wanted to know, how do you choose the scholarships for students?
Oh, great. I'll let Alicia answer that.
Okay, the selection from those students who are applying for scholarship, we get the papers or their requirement. So, and we have interview then with their family, with their parents, and saying that to be sure that they are really want to study, and they really want, or they are decided to be a professional. And especially I agree when Vicky said that we are having more women or female are in scholarship programs. So, but with this COVID is a little bit different, you know. We can stay, we can have this kind of interview or meeting with our families, and we are doing by like this, using Zoom or emails. So, but we are still in connection with their families. That's very important. And say, and those appliers are from rural area, especially. Yeah.
And
Thank you.
I have one question, Alicia, too, is what, through your scholarship program and everything, is there a way that you're continuing to preserve the indigenous cultures, learning the indigenous ways and keeping that alive, the language and everything?
Yes. And the idea is like, who those scholarship students who finish and now they are professional, they are working with their community, you know, with their people, with supporting their family, and trying to economically or in different ways, like now their brothers and sisters coming, also they are studying at university with their supports, and the special, and we are asking them if where are they working and what they are doing. So we know that they are working in their community and helping other people or their families too.
So Tom, your question is a great segue to introducing Rubain. And
Yes.
let me see if I can get over here and see Rubain. It's great to have so many faces to scroll past. There we go. So Rubain Hilary Quispe, like Alicia Lucasi, is a BQEF program graduate. Like Alicia, he spent time at a French school in the US. Rubain was at Oakwood French School in Poughkeepsie, New York. I think 2008, 2009, he can tell us which one. He can set me straight. And Rubain has gone on to work on Aymara language and cultural preservation. And I'm going to let Ruben tell you a story and show you all the good work he's been doing. Ruben, you were muted, so if you can unmute, please. Yeah, your microphone is muted. Ruben's on a little rougher connection, so we'll give him a moment to
Hello,
unmute.
can you hear me?
Great.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Yes, we
Yeah.
can hear you, Ruben.
Okay. Hello, Vicky, Alicia, and all the friends. Good evening from El Alto City. It's actually it's Aymara contemporary city because this city in this city live a lot of families from different communities of Aymara Nation mostly, and after that from Quechua Nation. And so my name is Ruben Hilary Quispe. I was born like Alicia in a rural area. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you. And so I majored linguistics, and I learned in the university actually about my language, how to write especially. And so as you see in this web page, this is an Aymara project on the internet, because when I was a student and this language like Aymara or any other native languages in Bolivia and in South America, like in US, they have been oppressed like their population or like their inhabitants. And so this is an Aymara, and actually bilingual web page, and this is Aymara writing based in Latin script. Okay, as you see in Spanish, here says Internet en Aymara, and para promover nuestra lengua, in order to promote our language Aymara, we are using the internet. The first project is, as you know, this is the Wikipedia in Aymara. And so that's one project which we have been doing as group of scholarship students from BQE in Bolivia, and around like 5 people or BQEF scholarship students participate in this project promoting the culture and Aymara usage on the internet. That's the name, Hakearu, which means language of the people, and or the voice of the people. And also we use blogs, and so all the blogs is written in Aymara. We want to reach to like the population of Aymara people in South America is like more than 3 million. And so that's the purpose of why we are writing and tweeting, also tweeting, using Twitter in Aymara, and also using the also Facebook. And some people, including in Bolivia, they wonder, saying, who follows you? Okay, how many people follows you if you write everything in Aymara? And so, as you can see here, this is an interview in a local TV station in El Alto. And so until now, until today, there is like 22 1,596 views until today, just in 24 hours. And so that's the impact of the audience of the Aymara population. And so that's why we found this like strategy to spreading the language of Aymara on the internet. And so another project is we have been translating the platform of Facebook. And as you see here, my platform is in beta version. Okay, and so as you see here, some options, it's already in Aymara, like Hupjata, like Masinaka, like friends, or Hamokanaka, like for photos, or more, or some of the words or options, it's still in English. And as you can see here, like the options, you can see some of them in Aymara, like Unchukinyanaka or Televisión Wakichawinaka or Uintañanaka, and the others it's still in English, or Kusawa or Wakichawinaka or Amuyunaka, Tamanaka. And this is especially to prove that the language like Aymara can go to the new technologies. It could be brought to the new technologies. And so here, instead of like, it's in Aymara, or in or some messages, it's already in Aymara, some of them, or it's still in English. And so one of the characteristics here is as Aymaras, we had this opportunity to connect with BQE, where Alicia is still working there, and this opportunity gave us, gave us this kind of impacts to learn not just our language, also English. And so in this project, we translated directly from English to Aymara. And lastly, okay, this is another local newspaper. And here, this is me with the hat. And this is another friend who is also, who got the scholarship through BQE. And we translated the Little Prince into Aymara. And I think this is what we have been doing, like Aymaras. Once we got the, once we majored in the university, getting the knowledge, I think in my case, it's also the person who majored among my family. And so my father never go to the school, neither 1 year. And so including my mom, just my mom went to the school like for 2 or 3 years. And I think that's all from my side, my friends.
Thank you, Ruben. Are there any questions that anyone wants to ask Ruben? And Ruben, if you you could probably stop sharing your screen, which might make your connection a little more stable for you.
Yes.
And now I get to see everybody. Are there any questions for Ruben? And that was The Little Prince was the name of the book that they had translated. That went by pretty quickly. Terry, did you have another question?
Yeah, I guess I just wondered what were the changes, or have you seen any changes in, say, public education under Evo Morales, let's say, or have there been other trends that you see in changing in Bolivian supportive education?
Either one of you, Alicia or Ruben. Yeah. Go ahead.
I think the question is related to education and Evo
Political
Morales,
change.
right?
Yeah, political
Okay.
change in general, because
Yeah.
Alicia pointed out that long ago, 66 years ago, there was a definite bias in or prohibition on education for people not of the
Yes,
Spanish.
Yeah, I think Evo Morales years, it was like the first revolution, national revolution, it was in 1952. And so that's the year after that revolution, the schools education have been opened to Aymara people and Quechua people. And after that, but it was really hard to go to universities for us. It was really hard to finish the secondary schools because, like Alicia mentioned, you had to walk like for 2 hours, 3 hours, sometimes 5 hours. And so imagine walking every day, like for including like 2 hours, for example. And so it's really hard. And Evo Morales, what he did is, from my view, is it was another kind of revolution, but it was a kind of superficial. It was not deep, right? It was not deep. He could have done more things for his people, and but that doesn't mean it didn't change, and so it changed in many ways because Evo Morales built a lot of infrastructure, especially for the education in many places. And of course, there are many things to do for education, like it should be more preparation for teachers and more equipments for the schools. Many schools, they don't have libraries, for example, and many things. And so, but it has been changing, not a lot, but in some way it changed.
Yeah, thank you.
Alicia, did you, I'm so sorry, Alicia, did you want to add to that anything about the education, the changes in education you've seen in Bolivia? I know, for example, that it impacted Quaker schools because they couldn't keep up with the new standards that Morales's education department mandated. And so where we had 6 Quaker schools, they had 6 Quaker schools when we started, there were just 3 within a few short years, which is fine because education had improved and moved on. But Ruben, it's good to hear your issues about some of the depth problems. Alicia, are there things that you want to add to that?
Yeah, that's true. I was trying to mention that, and many private schools were closed, and because many requirements, and many private schools can't have those requirements, so they had to close, like Quaker schools. We had many Quaker schools in downtown and in Atlanta city and outside in rural area too. But now we have, I don't know if it in Achacachi is still, Ruben knows about that. In Achacachi still we have a Quaker school or not, but I know we have one in downtown or one in Atlanta city. So it's because Ruben said that the government is trying to build new building, and the government is giving like a bono to students who are studying in public school, and not for private schools, or students that are studying in private schools. So, and those kind of things, I agree with that Ruben said, that it's not deeply in pedagogy or like a really good preparation or change, you know. But the education in Bolivia, it's based in community, no? In community, like work in community, and it's based in production. So and that's the base for in the education in Bolivia. And I want to add, like my parents, and Ruben said, my grandparents don't speak Spanish, they speak Aymara. My parents learned Spanish, they speak in Spanish. So when I go to my downtown, to my town, I have to speak in Aymara, you know. So it's changing now. There are many young people are coming, becoming educated, and they are going to the school, and they are going to the university. So like me, and yeah, I want to add that. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Grania, am I saying it correctly? You're muted. You need to unmute.
Yeah, I unmuted. Hi, Ruben. Thank you for your presentation. I'm really interested in how is internet access something that's quite widespread, or is it very limited in terms of the number of people that have computers?
Relatively, I think always I put the example. For example, my generation jumped to these smartphones, smartphones directly without using the cable telephone, for example. And talking about the internet connection, it's, as you see, my connection, for instance, for example, it's very slow. And in many different communities, Aymara communities especially, it's still slow and there is no internet connection. But in El Alto City has more than 1 million inhabitants. And so that means here in El Alto, there is like more than 85% of Aymaras. And so that's our audience. Okay, that's our, those Aymaras sometimes, or in the case of the city, many of them, generation after generation, they didn't learn directly Aymara. Their first language is Spanish, but many of them, they understand Aymara. And so this kind of projects help them or support them learning and remembering their background and their language. And so that's the situation related to people and Aymaras and followers and internet connection.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? I have a few more contextual slides that I'd like to show you if I can, but I think, do you go just until 8 or 8? This is I think another 5 minutes. Okay.
Oh,
All
you
right.
can go as
Well,
long as you want. If people have to leave, they can leave.
okay.
This is interesting.
Okay.
So you go as far as you want to.
Let's see if I can manage to get in and out of screen share without getting in trouble.
It
So,
looks like Marilyn has a question, Vicki.
oh, okay.
Marilyn.
Marilyn, please, yeah, go ahead. And is that Marilyn and Marilyn's iPhone? Oh, I'm sorry.
But she's muted. She's
Marilyn,
muted.
you're muted, honey.
Marilyn, you're muted.
I see she's working at it. There, we can hear you now.
Okay. I want to know if there are a lot of books published in Aymara, if linguists are doing the different dialects of Aymara, and do children have books in Aymara? All of those things. And so are there a lot of linguists working on those kind of projects? And who is sponsoring them and so on? There are lots of questions I have in relation to the linguistic part of because it's so important. Aymara is so important. Indigenous languages are so important. And so
Rubain?
people writing, people reading, people, how is that manifesting itself?
Yes, yes, that question is for me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. As Alicia and before we mentioned, we didn't have the access to the school to learn Spanish at the beginning. After that, I didn't learn in the school, in my case, or maybe in the case of Alicia, how to write Aymara, for example. That was like Hispanization, right? And so that was a process of Hispanization. And after that, of course, now Aymara and another native languages or local languages in Bolivia, it's official languages among Spanish. But in the schools, it's really hard to implement the multilingual, okay, the approach of education is multilingual approach of education. But it's really hard. Teachers, many teachers, they don't know Aymara, and some of the teachers just they know how to speak. For example, they speak, but they don't write. And related to the books, of course, there are a lot of materials. For example, books like for chemistry or physics or math written in Aymara. I think that's a process we have been trying to create. That's another project with scholarships of students of again of the BQE student or scholarship students. We have been doing another project creating new words in Aymara for the new realities. And so that's big challenge. Like for Facebook has including for Spanish a lot of new words, and so we have been trying to manage this kind of projects related to Aymara. And I think if we keep going with this kind of project, not just like Hakearo, just like us, but many of the groups or many schools or many institutions, organizations, and from the state, from the universities, and from different schools. And so probably in the future, we will have a lot of materials and a lot of teachers teaching in Aymara and many things. And this is a word in Aymara which is very long word, like aruskip asip naka saki punira kispawa. That's just one word, right? But it's a kind of a lot of thing to explore in Aymara. And so okay, that could be from my part for that question.
So Marilyn, I heard you ask about literature in Aymara for younger readers as well. And the focus of Hakiaru has been on digital materials primarily. Rubain, I'm not sure how your project is funded other than that it's an all volunteer effort. So those were the two questions I heard from Marilyn that I wonder if you feel that you can speak to. Funding for the work that you're doing, especially if you wanted to do print materials, and what print materials you might be doing for younger readers, if any, and understanding that it's a very dedicated but very small band of people who are working on this, between 6 and 12 at any time. So what they can produce is obviously limited.
What about, for instance, in Guatemala, where I'm familiar with languages being taught in different places and in schools. In a number of towns, they have special centers where a speaker of whatever language is of that locality gives classes for people to come and learn to read and write in those languages. Do they have centers like that in Bolivia? In different towns where people can come and learn how to write and read in their own language.
First of all, I think there is not a lot of literature. I think it's one of them, The Little Prince into Aymara, for young people. And about funding, it's we have been doing totally voluntarily, but this kind of impact opened us another doors, because people from Europe, institutions, organizations from Australia or from England or from Argentina, they say us, hey, you Hakearu are writing in Aymara, and so we have this this work for you. And just I finished yesterday, for example, I think it's my first time in the live. I translated like 10 cents, I think it's 10 cents US dollar per word. And so it's I think it was like 60,000, more than 60,000 words. And so that's the advantage of doing this kind of projects, and people know us, and so they contract us, and so they contact us. And like in Guatemala, we have like just I would say just on the internet, on the social network, where the people make groups, or they learn in groups, and so they ask each other, saying, oh, what does this word mean? Or what does, how do you say this word in Aymara, or in Spanish, or in both sides? And I think the government has been doing some couple of schools, like for some small schools, teaching for like kids, like 5 years old kids or 6 years old kids, and so they have been learning there in the native language of Aymara. And so for the adults, I think we don't have yet, just social networks, Marilyn.
We're all in time, hopefully. Thank you.
Could I ask a
Are there-
question?
Please.
What about publishers? Are there any publishers in Bolivia or anywhere else that publish books in Aymara?
I have another project, which is to open a bookstore just for Aymara books. And so I have like, I contacted all the writers because many of them were my professors in the university. And so they teach in the schools. And I found some of them, but not many. Like I would say like more than 200 of books in Aymara, in El Alto, in this in this kind of context, and there is no a lot of publishers.
Okay. I would like to know how the recent politics, where there was the coup and then the return to political power, how has that affected your bookstores or your freedom of speech and so forth?
Are those questions you're comfortable answering?
Yeah, that's a good question too. Yes.
Because I'm curious and not afraid to ask anybody anything, but I forget sometimes that for folks in those locations and situations, it can sometimes be more hazardous than I might feel here. So if you're comfortable answering that question, please do so. And if not, you'll get a very polite Bolivian. It's a little bit hard to say.
Myself, I don't know why, but like those 3 last years or 2 last years, I was a little bit involved in political parties. And so what happened is after Evo Morales, like 14 years as president, Evo Morales and many people were how can I explain this, against Evo Morales, because they said, oh no, this government is there is there is corruption, and so oh no, we can't support anymore this president. And so that happened in 2019. 2019, some rich people from the western part of Bolivia and another politicians who have a lot of money, and so they paid a lot of amount of money to militaries and to police, especially to how it's called this, people who are heads, right? Who guides, and so after that, Evo Morales was left the country, as you may heard through news, and but Áñez was the next president, and during Áñez, and at the beginning it was a kind of many people were in silence, right? Not saying nothing. And after that, because constitutionally, Áñez should be governing like for 3 months, but he extended like more than 10 months, exactly 11 months. And so that was happened. And so they said, the people said, no, we don't need like Áñez. And so that's why this in the last election happened. The people said, oh, we don't need Áñez, but we should improve, like saying improve Evo Morales' government. And but today, personally, and many people say that Evo Morales' government through Arce Catacora, who is the current president, in many ministries and many institutions of the government, I think the same people from Evo Morales people are in the same, oh no, let me explain. The same people is in this government. I would say like that. Or I would say that, right? And so, but we don't know what will happen, but changes are happening, because most people are saying, oh, look, the history taught us, and we are like indigenous people especially, and so we are high percentage in Bolivia. Like it's still high percentage in Bolivia. And so We don't know what will happen in the future, but people are talking every time and politically, and so they're saying, oh, we have now professionals, or maybe BQEF is preparing professionals, and so maybe people are seeing that professionals and saying, oh, we have now professionals, and so I think there will be more changes in the future.
Oh, it's a flux. You're just, okay. Thank you so much.
Well, and it's one of the things that we have in common, isn't it? This great sense of
Yeah.
relief with the recent change in leadership, and looking forward to positive change and progressive approaches and rights, and feeling that we can move even beyond where we were just before the last person who was there that was a problem. So that's something else we have in common. Alicia, did you want to respond to Joseph's question about how politics has affected you and education there? Did you?
Yeah. Okay. Like Ruben said, that to stay with Evo Morales for 14 years, it's long time. And when I asked to one of them, my family, and I said, and she just finished the high school, and I said, how many presidents do you met? And she said, just Evo Morales. Yeah, because he stayed for 14 years in the government, and at the first 5 years when he was in the government, we were really waiting changes, and he did. And I was so happy because we had the first indigenous president at that time.
Yes.
And I was so happy with those changes I was seeing at that time. But after that, it was like it changed a lot, and I was not agree with many decisions. During this 2 years since Evo Morales was out, and the things was like really sad. I didn't know what happened, but now with Arce, I hope that he will decide, or he will bring new things and changes in good way. And now we hope that the indigenous people are, now we have professionals. We are professionals, and we can work with our community and work in different areas. So, and I remember before Evo Morales, the indigenous people were, especially in downtown, we can't see many, like in the way that we dress the clothes and walk on the street with our traditional clothes. But now you can see with our traditional clothes, and we can talk, and we can visit the office, and we can do many things, and we can speak in Aymara and not just in Spanish. So we are how can I say, we have our place, we can visit, and we can walk on the street, and we are free. We can say what we want to say. And but in the politicals, it's up and down. Just I can say that.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
I think there may be more in common with our election in that.
Oh yeah.
It's my understanding that the Organization of American States there, Luis Almagro, and they continue, the oligarchy continue to challenge the results of that election.
Right.
It was bogus and everything else, just like a certain man in our country is doing.
Yeah, right.
So it just seems like it's a disturbing pattern, not only in Bolivia, now the United States, it's, worldwide.
And Myanmar. Sure, in Myanmar, but wait,
Myanmar.
I have to not get political. So let me, because I'm here on BQEF's behalf. So let me, if I can, share the screen and go through just a few more slides. I want to give you a little bit more context for the background for what some of our students come from and talk about a couple of other terrific things people have gone on to do. So let me, and then hope I can get out of screen share without having to hang up. So let me see if I can do this. Okay, so
Yep.
this student, great, thank you. This student's family, this is a sweater knitting machine. It took us a while to figure out what was going on. This is a sweater knitting machine, and this student's family supports themselves by knitting sweaters and selling them. Textile arts are a big deal in Bolivia, and is one expression of cultural preservation. This student's family has this vibrantly colored and fully stocked store on a busy street. I love this photo, not just for the father who's the bricklayer, but for the saturation of color and the depth and intensity of the beauty that you find in Bolivia. In fact, not to segue too much into the travelogue, but Lonely Planet describes it as one of the 2 or 3 most beautiful countries in the world. It really is a spectacular place. Here's a mom who weaves cloths. Again, textile arts and cultural expression of textiles is a big deal in Bolivia. Not every student's family comes from a home this simple, but many do. This family is on the Altiplano, where the light is just incredibly bright and harsh. Although if you leave Western New York and go to Bolivia in January, a lot of light's not a bad thing. And did I hear that someone had a question? I heard someone say something. I can't see if you've got hands raised while I'm in screen share. This is one of our medical students, Noemi, who was at who staffed a booth at a health fair. Noemi actually left the program early because she got a part-time job that fit in her schedule. And one of the things that we often see is that students will give up their slot if they get a job so that another student can come on and have that support. It's another expression of the deep sense of community that we see among Bolivians and among Myanmar in particular. We also, when students apply, they are screened in part for their history of and commitment to community service, and they're expected to continue with their community service for the duration of their studies. This student was an agriculture student who planted these small shrubs which would get much bigger in order to control runoff and erosion on the road. Students often focus on feeding those who don't have enough to eat. On the right in the red coat is Tanya, who is a medical student, and she was volunteering at a blood drive. One of our programs is education interns in U.S. Quaker schools. Here's Alicia in red, who, as she said, went back to Bolivia and talked about some of the things she had learned there. She gave presentations to groups that included pastors. Pastors are a very powerful component or faction in Quaker school administration. Rubain, during his time at Oakwood Friends School in Poughkeepsie during the fall apple harvest. This is Magali Quispe in the center. Magali was a social work graduate who visited I'm not going to remember, what's the name of the prison in La Paz, Alicia? Help me
San
out.
Pedro.
San Pedro prison, which is a whole city block wide and a small city state unto itself. And when Magali was in San Pedro prison, visited the prison for her social work practicum, she realized they had a great need for the ADP program, and she's gone on to spread it to several prisons, including women's prison and Kaualama prison for youth, and has been involved in ADP International. We also have a visits and volunteering program. The family ranged in the middle row here visited the student residence for 2 or 3 months, and soccer was one way that they united without concerns about language obstacles. This is Orit Netter, a teacher from Penn Charter school who went to Bolivia for a year on sabbatical, and this was Recess Book Club. She also held English conversations with scholarship students because a lot of the material, even electronically, is in English, and you need to be able to navigate the English language to improve your odds of success. And then we see Magali on the left again, and on the right is Emma Kandori. Emma is a BQEF scholarship graduate who also spent some time at Quaker schools here in the US. She founded it's the Friends International Bilingual Center, and Magali had AVP workshops there for a while. They had to close down due to funding issues just before COVID, but are still continuing smaller scale, working from home. If you would like to get BQEF updates by email, please feel free to type your email address in the chat screen, and I'll copy those. And I'm going to stop screen sharing now. The red button has magically popped up on my screen, and invite any more questions, comments, feedback. And I want to thank you all for being such warm, attentive, responsive, supportive, kind, affirming participants. It's really been a pleasure to visit with you all tonight. So, do you have any other questions before we go? Thank you all so much. Terry, was that a wave or a question?
Well, I always have questions. So, you know, one thing that Newton, really, I learned everything about Bolivia from Newton and from Vicky in their talks that they gave in Buffalo. But Newton particularly was impressed that what Evo Morales represented was an acknowledgement of the existence of the indigenous, and that there were, you know, that there was not just a Spanish culture that was in dominance, but that there were different philosophies that maybe were older than the Spanish influence. And you know, I know that the Quaker religion probably doesn't, well, is very well spread in Bolivia, and is you know, I believe Bolivia has one of the largest Quaker populations percentages in the world, right?
It is the second largest Quaker population by count. Second or third after only the US and Kenya. And I'd have to revisit the statistics, but yeah, one of the three largest Quaker populations in the world. I see Helen's finger up, like she might have more current information for me. Helen, you're muted, so you'll have to click out.
I believe Kenya has the largest population of Quakers, not the US.
So it's 35,000 Quakers in Bolivia, which in the country of 11 million is, you know, it's a better percentage than we do here.
Right. And so, you know, to what extent, you know, how does it fit in with with other philosophies, you know? So, you know, Christianity is probably not original in the indigenous populations, but it fits in very well. I mean, yeah, so it's a curious question that I'm asking, but I just wondered if you would comment on that, because obviously many of the Quaker peoples of Bolivia are indigenous, and that's an important continuation. So the two ideas are compatible somehow.
So almost all of the Quakers in Bolivia are Aymara, almost all of them. There are a lot of commonalities between Aymara values and Quaker values, community, integrity, stewardship. Aymara cosmology originally is very much a nature-based belief system. So it was a pretty natural overlap. And one of the things that I am always struck by, and really moved by is the Aymara, in Quaker we'd say testimony, the Aymara value of community, and how deep that is. As Alicia said, when the students graduate, one of the things that they are really attentive to is how they can strengthen their families and their community with what they've learned and what they're accomplishing in the world.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Are there any other questions before we go? Thank you, Alicia and Rubain, for taking time out of your obviously
Yes.
very busy, very productive lives to join us. It was a real treat for us to have you on the call this evening. Thank you both so much. Yes. And
You're
Thank
Nikki.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vicky
Thank you.
and
Sorry.
friends,
Thank
and
you.
Thank you.
Also Lourdes.
I would like to
Helen-
teach you a word that you can
Okay, and
remember in
Helen's-
Aymara.
And Helen's got her hand up before we do that. Helen?
Well, I volunteer with this program because I just love what it is able to accomplish. And you've seen two of our stars. And really, Newton and Newton and his Bolivian partner really saw that there was an opportunity with this program to develop new leaders among Indigenous people. You have just seen two young leaders in the country. And what better way to invest your money than doing it in education for people who are making really good use of it?
Yes.
We could use your support very much. This is a hard time for organizations, small organizations that are trying to raise money, but we would love any support you give us. And indeed, I have another thing here.
Oh, okay.
100% alpaca handmade scarf and handmade in Bolivia, and we sell these too. If you're interested in one of those, you can let me know and I'll tell you what I have. So anyway.
So this was made by a women's cooperative, Las Gregorias, in El Alto. They do wonderful, wonderful, amazing work. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Helen. Thank you.
Yeah,
and Alicia, go ahead.
Just another way we spread the word here.
Alicia, you were going to teach us a word, I think.
Yeah. Just you, I think you are going to remember and learn a word in Aymara, saying thank you. Gracias in Spanish and in Aymara, yus pagara. Remember that word, yus pagara.
Can you type it in? For those of us who are visual, can you type it in the chat?
Okay.
And before we go, I want to say first to Alicia that you apologized at the beginning of your talk for your English. I'm going to tell you something. You speak better English than most people in Rochester, New York.
No.
Your English is
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And I work with a similar program with the Mayans, the Achi Mayans in Guatemala. And it is so reaffirming to see these students grow up, go to university, which was closed to them before. They've become lawyers, doctors, architects, teachers. They've come back to their own communities and are teachers there now. And it's just so important to see that happening. And it's the same thing that you're doing in Bolivia. And it's wonderful work. And you're two wonderful students and teachers and professionals. And it was so nice to meet you both tonight. And Vicki, thanks for arranging it. And Terry, you too. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all. It's been our pleasure, really. Yuspagata? Yuspagata.
Thank you.
It takes me a bit.
Yuspagata.
Thank you.
Yuspagata.
Yuspagata.
Vicki,
oh, you're going to write it.
Vicki, you might want to post on the chat, you know, the address for the office or something, so that if people do want to get in touch and send contributions to you, they'll know where to send it. And if no more questions, then I think we'll conclude tonight's meeting. It was a very interesting one, and the one thing nice about Zoom is that we can make these connections in such faraway places. It's just really been a wonderful thing to be able to have you both coming to our living rooms tonight. And I hope your rooms are heated tonight. And
Somewhat.
That is no.
Li-
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
hey,
Thank
Nada.
you, Ruben.
Now you
Okay,
are my
thank you,
friend,
friends.
and I'm your friend.
I'm gonna be-
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're unmuted.
Bye.
Say goodbye.
Yeah,
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Hi, thank you.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Edgar.